All right, the 53-man cutdown is less than 24 hours away. We've got a lot of 49ers-related activity. Obviously, we can start with Brian Robinson Jr. doing push-ups, but actually, I'd rather discuss the receiving room. Why? Well, because the 49ers are obviously interested in adding a starting wideout at a cost-efficient price. Amari Cooper has agreed to a one-year deal with the Raiders. But as you can see here, Diana Rossini said that he had interest from multiple teams, including the 49ers, before he decided to join Las Vegas. It is very easy to connect the dots here. The 49ers interested in Cooper throughout this offseason, interested in Gabe Davis as well, who visited the team a couple months ago. But the 49ers have big-time budgetary constraints for very obvious salary cap reasons. They also have a need for a wide receiver right now. That's why we're going to rope Jauan Jennings' name into this. He was not out on the practice field today. And yesterday, Tim Kawakami reported, and I came to you with a video right after linking you to the article up on the San Francisco Standard, that the 49ers are considering placing Jauan Jennings on injured reserve this week as he continues to navigate his calf issue and simultaneously his contract issue. If Jennings does indeed go to injured reserve, it might happen within 24 hours of the roster cutdown, which is tomorrow at 1 p.m. It would leave the 49ers with a fairly glaring hole at the second receiver spot entering week one on September 7th at Seattle, which is why they're interested in adding a wide receiver. When they traded for Sky Moore last week, the first thing I said is this is not an X receiver. This is not somebody who's going to be the top two guy for the 49ers. He's a gadget weapon like Ray McLeod, and he can help in punt return and kick return. That affected Junior Bergen's job security more than anything for the 49ers. It didn't really change the dynamic of the top of the receiver room. At the time, we said the 49ers would still be interested in adding a wide receiver, and we said that they would definitely be interested in trying to resolve the Jauan Jennings situation, with IR being a possibility, a negotiating tactic of sorts for the 49ers. That could be something that also obviously hurts them. That's why they're looking to the outside. Aside from Amari Cooper, there's been talk today of this guy right here, Jakobi Meyers of the Raiders. He recently met with Raiders brass and requested to be traded. You can see there, according to Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero. But the Raiders said that they had no plans to do so. Meyers and the Raiders attempted to negotiate a new contract, but could not come to terms. Now, the reason I bring this up is because last year, when the 49ers were going through the ringer with Brandon Ayuk, they actually offered the Raiders a draft pick for Jakobi Meyers. But as we've seen since at least 2018, Raiders owner Mark Davis has shown a great disinterest in trading with the 49ers. Remember in 2018, they had Khalil Mack. The Raiders were trying to offload him. San Francisco actually offered the Raiders more than Chicago for Khalil Mack, but Mark Davis, because he didn't want to trade with the 49ers, shipped Mack off to the Windy City instead of Fog City, instead of San Francisco. I guess Santa Clara is not really Fog City, right? It's funny. They got the big foghorn in Santa Clara, like a Golden Gate Bridge foghorn, and it's like you're blowing a foghorn in a desert. It doesn't really make sense to me, but it's one of the quirks of Levi Stadium being down there in Santa Clara. Long story short, Mark Davis has shown that he's not all too interested in trading with the 49ers in the past, and it doesn't even seem that Jakobi Meyers is really available on the trade market, but that could be something to keep an eye out for just in case nothing is resolved in Las Vegas with Jakobi Meyers, a player whom the 49ers saw in that joint practice a couple weeks ago. And finally, there's another name to keep an eye out for. And you know, this is the big news. Let me just pivot really quickly. This is other big news around the league. Trey Hendrickson, finally, he and the Bengals have reached a compromise. And this is also related to what the 49ers might be doing with Jauan Jennings, because Trey Hendrickson scheduled to be a free agent next offseason. wanted a massive new deal from the Bengals, didn't get a massive new deal, but did get a $14 million pay raise for this season. So what happens here is that Hendrickson retains his path to free agency in 2026 while also getting a pay bump this year. And, the reason that this is applicable to the 49ers and Jauan Jennings is that he's in a very similar situation to Trey Hendrickson. There was obviously less money on the line, but Jennings is entering the final year of his deal. One thing that's particularly valuable to Jauan Jennings is his potential free agency in 2026, but he also wants to make more money before then because of the performance that he put up in 2024. So, I mean, all of those parameters were true for Trey Hendrickson. It was a long standoff between him and Cincinnati, and the way that they were able to bridge the gap is by giving him a pay raise in 2025, and he still maintains his pathway to free agency. Might the 49ers and Jauan Jennings accomplish something like that? I've always tossed out the $12 million number. I know that up until now, the 49ers haven't been really willing to budge. They do have considerable amount of leverage in this situation, and they want to exact more leverage by going wide receiver hunting right now, which is why they're interested in Amari Cooper, and they're certainly interested in some other players. I've got another name for you, by the way. Jackson Meeks, waived by the Detroit Lions. Rookie, played for Syracuse. Prior to that, played for Georgia, was actually the Lions' biggest performer at receiver over the course of this training camp. This is going to be the story of the next 24 to 48 hours. Guys are going to be waived. The 49ers are number 11 on the waiver wire list because they finished 6-11 last year. So they're much higher up in the waiver claim order than they used to be. And if they like any of these players, they're going to have a legitimate shot of getting a lot of them. So I would actually, I've got my 49ers 53-man roster projection here, and this is currently still a large roster. It's still an 84-man roster. The cut down has started, by the way. The 49ers have made a few moves already today. But if you look at the roster, I really do think that there is a possibility that the 49ers add from the outside when it comes to the final 53-man count. What positions is that possible at? Well, obviously, wide receiver. Defensive line, offensive line, always are positions where the 49ers are on the market to potentially add a player. Basically anywhere where they can find an upgrade, and it's a whole lot more likely to be able to find that upgrade at waiver claim number 11 versus waiver claim number 31, where the 49ers had been the year prior after being the Super Bowl runner-ups. So stuff is about to be moving very, very quickly on many fronts, and Jackson Meeks is a name that I want everybody to keep an eye out for. Detroit Lions want him back on their practice squad, but will he make it back through waivers to be re-signed to the Lions? Now, speaking of wanting to keep guys around on the practice squad, this is a dance that every team is going to be going through right now here at the Cutdown. And I wrote about this on the San Francisco Standard. I analyzed the 49ers' 4 most difficult roster cuts and 4 most difficult situations to navigate. And one of the situations that's particularly difficult to navigate, obviously, is going to be that wide receiver room, because Jauan Jennings is the big variable for the 49ers, which is, ties into why we say that IR is a possibility. The 49ers want to force some movement on that front. They want to get their roster set for week 1. This week, so they can enter practice on Monday, and then next Wednesday ahead of the game at Seattle, locked, loaded, and ready to go. It's the time for uncertainty is past. Now it's time to firm things up. And we've seen movement around the league because teams are dealing with similar situations, with the Trey Hendrickson case in Cincinnati probably being the most comparable one, albeit at a higher pay scale than Jauan Jennings. We'll see if, and again, Jennings is also dealing with the calf issue, so it makes it a little bit more complicated, but we'll see if there is any movement on that front for the 49ers this time. More trade news around the league, by the way. The Browns are sending Kenny Pickett to the Raiders for a 2026 5th-round pick. Kenny Pickett on the move to Las Vegas. So the Raiders in the news a lot today. Speaking of the news, though, this is up on the San Francisco Standard. You see the article up on the screen. I'm going to take this link and I'm going to toss it into the comment section. Mike is going to put it into the description, please. Or Mike, I think I already put it into the description. So you guys can go click on it in the description, or you could click on it in the chat section. These are the 4 most difficult roster cuts that the 49ers are going to have to navigate. I talk about Drew Moss. I talk about Sebastian Valdez. Then I talk about this issue that the 49ers have at cornerback. You've got Chase Lucas, I think, making the team, but you also have Darrell Luter Jr. and Dallas Flowers, and it's going to be hard to take all 3 of those guys because since it doesn't seem that Upton Stout is going to IR, we saw Upton Stout working pretty quickly on the side field today. That would mean 7 corners make this 53-man roster, which would be aggressive. Normally, it's just 6 who make the 53-man roster. To illustrate some of this, we can go ahead and go back to the depth chart and show you exactly where the 49ers are right now. If you want me to do a live show tomorrow when the 49ers release their cuts with this up on the screen, this depth chart, this live look, if you want me to be updating this live in a video tomorrow, give me a thumbs up in either the chat section or the comment section. I'll do this based on popular demand. It's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be something. I'm going to try not to be frazzled. I'm going to be trying to operate in real time to give you guys the look at the 49ers roster. But I do need to know if you guys want that or not. So please do comment if you want a live look tomorrow at the roster cut down. Because right now, I could give it a little trial run right now. The 49ers have already made 4 of the 6, sorry. The 49ers have already made 6 of the 37 moves that will be necessary for them to be roster compliant by 1 p.m. Pacific time on Tuesday afternoon. And if we want to look at the 6, then you could see the after effects of everything right now. I've already actually made the moves on the roster itself, but in this spot right here and in this spot right here, there were names this morning. But Carter Bradley, this is quarterback. Carter Bradley and Tanner Mordecai have been waived with injury designations. That is not surprising to us because both were hobbled at the end of the game on Saturday, and we were only expecting the 49ers to carry 2 quarterbacks on their 53-man roster. Unless they pick somebody up off of waivers, it looks like the initial 53 will indeed only have 2 QBs. Waiting in the wings, Curtis Rourke, coming off the ACL tear, but not yet. He's going to be on NFI to start the season. So Mordecai, Bradley, both gone. You'll notice that the running back room is a little bit emptier than it was before. That's because Keyshawn Vaughn has been released. That was also expected. 49ers gave Keyshawn Vaughn a little bit of a head start to start talking to other football teams. Then along the defensive line, the 49ers released waived Shaquille Brown. There's a difference between a waiver and a release, but some players who are vested veterans can be released. Others have to clear waivers. So Shaquille Brown went to waivers for the 49ers, and Jalen Allen, the defensive end, also went to waivers. So as you can see here, the D-line room is a little emptier than it was before. Speaking of the projection, one guy that I'm waffling on right now, this is going to be a tough decision for the 49ers, is Robert Beal Jr. I noticed him getting a lot of work with the first team today, but it could just be that the 49ers want to get a long last evaluation on Robert Beal Jr. or that they really want to keep him. I mean, today was a shortened practice. Beal played a lot in the game on Saturday. He was one of the few players who played a lot on Saturday and practiced a lot today, but it was a lighter session for San Francisco, and we'll keep a close eye on how many defensive linemen do the 49ers take? Is it going to be 10? If it's going to be 10, then my projection right now has room for one more. So that could either be Sebastian Valdez. It could be Robert Beal Jr. It could be Travis Gibson, who also impressed over the course of his time this preseason with the 49ers. And don't rule out the possibility of an offload too. I mean, I know that the 49ers have bought twice so far leading up to this cut down with Sky Moore and then with Brian Robinson Jr., but they could also sell. And I mean, earlier in the offseason, if you want to look at big picture stuff, the 49ers did a lot of selling on the defensive side of the ball. They wanted to get younger. They wanted to get healthier. They didn't want to get hungrier. They wanted to get better against the run. So we saw Javon Hargrave leave. We saw Malik Collins leave. We saw for the 49ers up front, like, I mean, this was Leonard Floyd was gone too. We saw this entire reconstruction of the defensive line based mainly around younger players. I mean, they were going to invest heavily in the NFL draft. Well, there's still a holdover, like a veteran holdover from some of those 2-year 2024 signings, and that is Jordan Elliott. If the 49ers need to open up another defensive line spot for one of the young players like a Sebastian Valdez to make this team, could Jordan Elliott be somebody that's packaged and sent out in a trade? You're seeing a ton of movement around the league right now. Trades are, I think, at an all-time high. We used to not see as many trades as we do in the NFL now. And I think just this is purely speculative on my part. But based on the fact that the 49ers have been in a renovating mood along the defensive line all off season, we should always be looking at veterans who aren't necessarily top shelf A-list performers. And we should be looking at how the 49ers might be trying to squeeze deserving rookies on the 53-man roster. And that's what my article up on the Standard is actually all about. You see Sebastian Valdez up there. And that's somebody that could potentially make the team if a spot is cleared. So there's so many variables, right? It's, do they take 9 or 10 defensive linemen? Do they offload a defensive lineman as part of this entire dance over the course of the next 24 or 48 hours? And then who do they deem worthy of any extra spots that might arise or do currently exist? Is Sebastian Valdez worthy, or do the 49ers look at Robert Beal Jr. and say, hey, I mean, he's finally starting to figure it out. He's got a lot of these physical measurements that we like, really good in the preseason. We'll go with him. Or do they find a way to take both of these guys? Because they're both still young players. This is why the next couple days really should be fun for the 49ers as we talk about potential moves. But that, though, I'll go back to it. The one big domino that is shrouded in the most fog right now, I call it the fog of war in my article, and is Jauan Jennings. And the 49ers have a bunch of different possibilities here, and it's really hard to gauge which one they will take because we're in such dark regarding the severity of the calf injury. But the 49ers ultimately do need to have some clarity on Jauan Jennings. Kyle Shanahan has said he expects him health-wise to be back by week 1, but the contract complications on top of that might stop Jauan Jennings from taking the field before week 1. There could be a hold in here for all that we know. So the 49ers need answers. They need certainty at wide receiver. They're obviously shopping for wide receivers as we speak, but the budget is such that they want to find a veteran at a cost-effective price. I mean, if I had a bet on what happened with Amari Cooper, is that the Raiders simply offered more money in that situation, right? And that's funny. It's a team reunion for Amari Cooper. I realized he started his career with Oakland and now he's with Las Vegas. So if there is more, if there's, in the case of in the case of this wide receiver market, if the 49ers have a price point, say $2 million, $3 million, and Amari Cooper is going somewhere for $5 million, the 49ers are very unlikely to cross it. Why? Well, because we've seen how they're constructing their roster over the course of this offseason. Let's pop open the depth chart one more time, just so we can illustrate the 49ers price structure surrounding these A-list players. The players shaded in yellow are the 49ers foundational pillars. These are the guys that they're willing to stretch out and pay, like real premium money, premium contracts. The 49ers have more players shaded in yellow, and you can also include Brandon Ayuk as a core player. He's just hurt right now. So, but for illustration's sake, the 49ers have more players shaded in yellow here than any other team in football. These are A-list players being paid A-list rates. For Kyle Juszczyk, it's obviously cheaper because he's a fullback and the 49ers were able to renegotiate his contract. He ended up taking less from the 49ers than he was offered to play elsewhere. I think the Steelers offered him more, but Kyle Juszczyk wanted to be back with the 49ers. That's great for San Francisco. Brock Purdy took a bit of a discount, but then you've got Christian McCaffrey at top-level money, Kittle, top-level money, Williams, top-level money, Bosa, top-level money, Warner, top-level money, and Deommodore Lenoir, they got him at a relatively good price, but he's still making A-list money at that cornerback position. The 49ers have so many of these A-list players making A-list money that to stay under the salary cap for the long run, they had to find a way to make the larger picture here cost efficient. And because of that, they're very unwilling to pay players that they deem to be B-list players exorbitant money. I mean, they have a firm line in the sand. And that's where Jauan Jennings is caught in between a rock and a hard place, because he is a very good player, but the 49ers already decided that Brandon Ayuk is their A-lister in the receiver room last year. For better or for worse, that's the commitment that they made for $30 million annually. So the 49ers are out here saying, well, Jauan's not a $20 million receiver for us, given our situation, but we did get him at a bargain last offseason. We're going to maintain that bargain. We're going to draw the line in the sand right here because we have a lot of leverage over this situation, given the incentives that Jauan Jennings is playing for. And a lot of people are not covering this Jennings situation correctly. I'll tell you who is. We are at the San Francisco Standard. Tim Kawakami did a great job with his article yesterday, and then we went into it over the video yesterday. Jauan Jennings has $3.5 million of incentives in his current deal that are all attainable. And I would say, I don't want to say easily attainable because nothing is easy in the NFL, but his performance last year would have attained these $3.5 million in incentives. It's something like 60 catches, 6 touchdowns, over 50% of the snaps. If you add up all the incentives, Jauan Jennings can make an extra $3.5 million this season. So they're all likely to be earned if he plays the whole season. If the 49ers do place him on IR, he has to miss at least the first 4 games. And then all of a sudden, you're talking about a quarter of the season gone. And then it's going to be a lot harder for Jauan Jennings to meet those incentives and therefore make those $3.5 million. On top of that, he's got about $650,000 in per game roster bonus money. That's total. So $650,000 divided by 17, I think it's like $37,000 per game. It all adds up to about $4.1 million total in incentive money that Jauan Jennings would be leaving on the table or risking leaving on the table if he voluntarily doesn't play for the 49ers or goes to injured reserve and misses a quarter of the season. Now, the calf injury, maybe he still is at the point where he just absolutely can't practice and can't play. There's a lot of murkiness here, so I know that we're speculating as to calf or contract. We know it's a little bit of both. We don't know what the percentage division between the two is. But the reason that injured reserve is being floated around as a possibility is because the calf is at least somewhat of a thing, and the 49ers need resolution. They need an answer here, and they can exact pressure based on the incentives that Jauan Jennings has in his contract that he risks not qualifying for, not making if he's out for any period of time in this 2025 season. You got a lot of moves happening right now as the 49ers continue their wide receiver hunting. Mike is feeding me some information. He says that the Rams are releasing 2024 fifth-round pick Brennan Jackson, one of their edge rushers. He was second in the NFL in sacks this preseason. Wow. So Brennan Jackson gone from the Rams. It's funny because he was one of the many rookies last year on that totally rebuilt Rams defensive line, yet they're deciding to move on. I don't know enough of the Rams defensive line situation from training camp to say why they made that move, but the release here is going to be a waive because Brennan Jackson was a 2024 draft pick, so he's only in his second year. So anybody who is waived is going to have to clear waivers, and I think this could be a player who is definitely claimed. Again, the 49ers are going to be number 11 on the waiver claim list, and Brennan Jackson is a fast edge rusher out of Washington State. In fact, we've got the relative athletic score here for Brennan Jackson. We can take a quick look at it. Toss it up on the screen. You can see how well this guy moves. He's got a great speed grade. I mean, 161, 10-yard split for somebody weighing 260 pounds is wild. The explosion, he's a really good athlete. So but I just don't see the agility testing here. There was nothing recorded on the relative athletic score. He had success in this preseason. It's going to be interesting to hear the story of why the Rams made this move. And just in general, across the whole league, it's already started. The 49ers have already made 6 moves. They're down from 90 to 84. Every single team has to go from 90 to 53. That's 37 times 2. That is nearly 1,200 players are in the midst of being cut around the entire NFL. So there are really hard decisions happening around the whole league. And all of these teams have to not only make these tough decisions, like ones on Sebastian Valdez, you see pictured there in my article up on the Standard, but teams simultaneously have to be thinking of who they can scoop up, who they can add, who they can poach off of that waiver wire. One guy that I talked about was Drew Moss, and a lot of people are worried that the 49ers are going to waive Drew Moss and he'll be claimed by another team, kind of like how Jarrett Kingston, the 6th-round pick, the offensive lineman, the guard, just like Drew Moss was claimed by the Carolina Panthers last year. And that obviously is an operational hazard over the next 24 to 48 hours. Sometimes you're just going to have to bite the bullet and let a guy get poached because these rosters aren't big enough to carry every single player that you need, not only to give yourself the best chance of winning on Sundays, but also for developmental purposes, right? The 49ers want to continue developing Drew Moss. I can tell you for a fact that they at least want him back on their practice squad. Now, if that's a make or break desire on the 49ers end, they can find a way to squeeze him onto the 53-man roster. If, though, they find other roster issues to be more pressing, they have to absolutely address other things, well, then the 49ers will risk exposing Drew Moss to waivers. And if he doesn't get claimed, he'll be back on their practice squad where they want him to be. The 49ers know more than we do about the rest of the league and the desires for certain types of players like Drew Moss on the interior offensive line. They've got intel. They have advanced pro scouts across the country going to different games, getting a feel for what other teams might be doing based on their preseason rotations. You know, fans can always just sit back on the couch, watch some of these YouTube shows, look at my depth chart up on their screens and say, oh, the 49ers should definitely keep this guy. He's going to get poached, this and that. But at the end of the day, people are just talking. They're not doing the research that a lot of these people in personnel departments are doing. And of course, it's going to be an inexact science. It's part of what makes this so compelling and so fun. But the NFL has kept these rosters small, probably too small for safety, but they've kept them small, and it's added a lot of intrigue to this whole roster musical chairs process. I mean, 1,200 players cut league-wide essentially all at once is a wild number. And there's a reason why you're seeing trades explode around the league, because the stigma around trades, I think, has died ever since the Rams. I mean, the Rams went crazy with trades a few years ago. The 49ers have been very aggressive on the trade market, but now it's recognized that this deadline on cutdown day is something that is just this inflection point for the whole league. And teams that want movement are going to use that 1 p.m. deadline to spur movement. And the 49ers have already made 2 trades heading up into the cutdown. Sky Moore, Brian Robinson Jr., and I'm sure that we're going to see even more trades around the entire NFL, maybe even with the 49ers, maybe even some trades away over the course of the next 18 hours before this is all settled in. Anyway, why don't we look to see what happened at practice today for the 49ers while they continue their wide receiver hunting. Yes, the push-ups. That is Brian Robinson Jr. Speaking of trades, conditional 6th-round pick. It's going to be the later of the 49ers' 2 6th-round picks in the 2026 draft for Brian Robinson Jr. There's Alfred Collins. I think he looks a whole lot more comfortable at that line of scrimmage, working with Greg Scruggs, 49ers D-line coach, filling in for Chris Kasarik at practice today. There's CJ West working with Scruggs. Now, West and Michael Williams, who's on the other side of CJ, both returned to practice for San Francisco today. So they got both rookie defensive linemen back. Sebastian Valdez has been in throughout the entirety of training camp. So has Alfred Collins. So all 4 rookies on the field. You see Mac Jones there behind Shanahan and Saleh. Big brace on that right knee. It was a knee sprain for Mac Jones. That's Richie Grant, safety, veteran safety, back in action as well. And then here's the receiver room without Jauan Jennings. Now, number 3 is Robbie Chosen. I wrote about this in the Standard. I think that if Jauan Jennings is not on this 53-man roster to start the season, I think that Robbie Chosen or Isaiah Hodgins will be, unless the 49ers are successful in their wide receiver hunt. That's obviously happening as we speak. There's Sky Moore, by the way. They traded for him. But the receiver hunt is obviously happening as we speak because they were interested in picking up Amari Cooper, just not at the price that he ultimately signed for with the Raiders. So the backup plan for the 49ers, and now we can go into full roster mode. I think it's a good time to really break out the full roster mode. But the backup plan for the 49ers, I think, lies in these 2 veterans, Hodgins and Chosen, to be the 5th receivers on the 49ers 53-man roster. If Jennings is on it, then you got Jennings, Pearsall, Watkins, who I think takes up a roster spot, even if he still might be hurt for the first couple of weeks, Russell Gage, number 4, Sky Moore, number 5. I think he could get away with only taking 5, but I think you're going to have to at least have 5 on the 53-man roster. So if Jennings is not part of that picture and it's only Pearsall and injured Watkins, Russell Gage, and Sky Moore, then I think that you're either going to the outside through the waiver wire, the trade market, or a surprise signing, or you're going to Robbie Chosen, who's been good this preseason, and the veteran Isaiah Hodgins. I think that's how it sets up for the 49ers as they try to overcome some of these injury situations. We're going to put Brandon Ayuk back into that injury shading. Ayuk, Pup, Robinson, suspended list, although he'll make the 53 initially tomorrow before he's placed on the suspended list. I'm not exactly sure when the official suspension timing will come in. So actually do expect DeMarcus Robinson to be part of the 49ers 53-man inclusion on the cut down tomorrow. But then obviously in effect, once the suspension hits, the 49ers are going to have a replacement for him in the receiver room. Expect Russell Gage to be healthy shortly. Once that happens, he'll definitely make the 53. But once that happens, we'll take off the injury shading. And then I would expect Watkins back within the first couple weeks of the regular season. Boy, it's busy. It's time for some of your questions here on the channel. We're having a lot of fun with this, aren't we? It's still the day before the cut down. A lot of you watching, though. We've got the big article up on the San Francisco Standard. Again, this is what you should be reading. The 49ers' 4 most difficult roster cuts. It's up on the screen for you right there. Oh, and also, we've got some of the Jauan Jennings incentives. If you want to take a look at this, I actually have this, and I'll put it up on the screen for you right now. These are the Jauan Jennings contract incentives. I think this is all significant stuff. As you can see, he's got there at the bottom left there, $1.5 million for 50% of the snaps here that the 49ers take in 2025. $667,000 for 60 catches or more. $667,000 for 600 receiving yards or more. $667,000 for 6 touchdowns or more. So that is a look at the Jauan Jennings incentives that he truly risks missing out on. 3.5 million total in those incentives if the 49ers place him on injured reserve, which is why I think that there's a really good chance, especially combined with what the other stuff that we're seeing around the league is, like the Trey Hendrickson situation. There's a really good chance that resolution is reached this week on the Jennings front because the 49ers want answers. They're going to press to see if they can get those answers. One way to press is to at least threaten the placement on injured reserve. The Colts have released cornerback Alex Johnson, per a source. He performed well over the preseason, and he was somebody who was with Gus Bradley, who's the 49ers assistant head coach now. Previously, the Colts defensive coordinator had played under Gus Bradley. The Bills are releasing one of their backup quarterbacks, Mike White. So as you could see, the cutdowns are in full effect across the league. Tomorrow, I don't know how you guys responded. Did you guys give me a thumbs up? Do you want me to do the cutdown stuff live tomorrow? When it does hit, and you should be ready before 1 p.m. Pacific, because as you can see, the 49ers might release their moves early. We might get 49ers moves early. So you need to hit the subscribe button. You need to hit the notification bell for sure now, because you need to know when I'll be going live, and we'll be very, very in-depth with this coverage. Jalen Milroe, the quarterback, the former Bama quarterback, might play a little bit against the 49ers in week 1. Obviously, Sam Darnold is the starter, but Seahawks coach Mike Macdonald, according to Greg Bell, who covers the Seahawks, said, quote, "We're going to have plays and game plans for Jalen Milroe, and he's going to rep those with the ones." Macdonald wants the 49ers to know that the rookie quarterback Milroe will have a package of plays each week. You know, that gives me vibes of Trey Lance before the finger injury in 2021. Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance. In essence, you could say that Sam Darnold is in that Garoppolo role for the Seahawks, and Jalen Milroe is in the Trey Lance role, somebody with a package of plays coming in. Now, before the finger injury, I think the 49ers wanted a full-born 2-quarterback system in 2021 for Trey Lance. Obviously, it didn't happen. He broke his finger against the Raiders. Then they tried to force him into some package play, but they abandoned that because he couldn't properly throw in 2021. But that's going to be really interesting for the 49ers on the defensive side of the ball if it does indeed come to fruition. Now, there is a chance that Mike Macdonald is just saying stuff to give Robert Saleh and his staff a tougher time preparing for the Seahawks. But we've seen it happen with Shanahan and the 49ers before, and I wouldn't put it past the Seahawks, who are set up with that Sam Darnold, Jalen Milroe situation. All right, I am taking a look at some questions now. I'm seriously ready for some good questions, so let's go for it. I see a lot of comments, and I don't see a lot of questions. You guys can keep me around for longer if there are good questions. If not, I will be on my merry way. Will the Niners reach out to Robbie Gould to have him help Moody? Last I checked, Robbie Gould was coaching Jimmy Garoppolo's high school alma mater, Rolling Meadows High School in the Chicago area. Robbie Gould was the head football coach there. So I don't know if that's going to be a thing. I think that Robbie Gould has moved on to the next chapter of his life. That would be highly unusual. So the answer there is a probably no. Will Moody be here the whole season? Asks William. Hell if I know. God, I mean, the Jake Moody experience is something that I'm actually enjoying covering. I know the fans hate the roller coaster. I'm just covering the team, though. It's an experience. He'll kick you a 59-yarder to win the game one week, and you'll miss an extra point and follow it up with a kick right out of bounds the next week. I mean, it goes from the team mobbing him on the field to Brant Boyer looking like he's about to explode in anger on the sideline. That's the Jake Moody experience. I think if Moody doesn't show more consistency than he showed the past 2 games, he's not going to be here all season. But if he shows consistency to go along with his talent, then he will be here this season. I always love to go back to this example. Doug Bryan, great, I'm not going to say great, but he was a very solid NFL kicker for a long time. He actually went to Cal. The 49ers actually drafted Doug Bryan into the NFL. They used a third-round pick on him. They used a third-round pick on Jake Moody back in 1994. The 94 49ers Super Bowl team had Doug Bryan as its kicker, a rookie Doug Bryan, third-round pick, kind of like Moody in 2023, right? The 49ers ended up cutting Doug Bryan a year later in 95, but we all know how the story ended. He ended up being a solid NFL kicker for other teams. So there's a couple arguments you can make here. Some people will say, well, he was only good because he got cut and it was a wake-up call. It's what he needed to mature. Sure, I agree. Kickers, especially young ones, drafted kickers, all seem to need to go through some sort of fire and make it out better on the other side. But I don't necessarily think that you have to be cut to have gone through that fire. Maybe sometimes you just need to go through an extremely difficult stretch, through a kicking competition, and a team could retain its rights over you. They can hold you onto your rookie contract, and maybe you'll come out the other side better for it. That's the question that Jake Moody is going to answer for the 49ers this year. And if he answers affirmatively, if he has gone through the fire and he's turned into a consistent kicker, if he's healthy heading into 2025 and through 2025, then this story will end up good for the 49ers and Moody. But if there still is that inconsistency, if it's shown that he hasn't made it through the troublesome bouts that have made the 49ers question his future with them, well, then I'm sure that they've got Greg Joseph or somebody else on speed dial. Do I think that Gage or Chosen may step up? Yeah, I mean, Gage is going to make the 53. I think Chosen might make it if they don't find they have to find a receiver at the price point that they're comfortable with. That's what's happening right now. They've been interested in Gabe Davis. They've been interested in Amari Cooper, but obviously the price points have not been what the 49ers want with either of those two players. So Gabe Davis is still available. Amari Cooper isn't. He's now with the Raiders again because we don't have the exact numbers, but I'd wager that it's the price point right now for the 49ers that is the sticking point. Can the 49ers clear Jennings health-wise and fine him like they did with Brandon Ayuk? You could clear somebody health-wise if they're actually healthy. Yes. But if he's not healthy, then you can't do that. So, like, you have MRIs. You have different ways to detect if the calf is still an issue. So if Jauan Jennings is fully healthy, I'm sure we'll find out about it. Kind of like we found out about it with the 49ers when they did clear Brandon Ayuk. So, yeah, they could obviously clear him. And if the holding is still happening even after the calf is fully healed, then there are those issues, the ones that the 49ers had to face with Ayuk and obviously overcame once they agreed to that extension, which created a whole new set of issues that the 49ers are dealing with right now. So they obviously are going to proceed delicately and proceed carefully in this situation. It never got to the point where the fines became a true thing with Brandon Ayuk because he signed right after that stern press conference by Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. It was August, I believe it was August 27th of last year that Brandon Ayuk signed. So we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary, but it might be right now that 1-year anniversary of that press conference from Shanahan and Lynch. I think it was either on cutdown day. Yeah, it was probably the cutdown day press conference because they carried Ayuk on the roster. The deal was not yet consummated, and they really wanted resolution that week. So they went up there at the auditorium. They sat down and they made it really clear that they expected Brandon Ayuk to practice. It was obvious that the 49ers were playing hardball. And then shortly thereafter, he did sign the contract. And now the story there is a little murky. The 49ers were apparently close to trading him because they just wanted resolution that week. But that trade never came to fruition. Apparently, Kyle Shanahan sprinted up to John Lynch's office after Brandon Ayuk said he wants to sign, and they got it done. But Brandon Ayuk, the 49ers, I feel he owes them a lot of production for the amount of guaranteed money that he got after sitting out all of training camp, and they didn't quite get that production last year. So they're hoping that he comes back from the ACL and the MCL tears and balls out here in the 2025 season. Got a question from Mauricio. Thank you, Mauricio. I know this is covering up my face a little bit, but I'll sit up here. Really appreciate it. Helps pay for the burrito tonight. 49ers are currently number 11 in the waiver order. So there are only 10 teams that the 49ers need to worry about submitting a claim, or do all 31 get a chance of submitting a claim before the 49ers can put a player on the practice squad? No. The waiver order is to put players on your 53-man roster. I'm going to close this. I appreciate it. Thank you. I just don't want it covering the whole screen there. The waiver claim order means if you land a player, if you're awarded rights to the player because you're the one that claimed him and you were high enough up in the order to have rights over him, he goes to your 53. If you want to put him on the practice squad, you would have to waive him again. He'd be exposed to the rest of the league waiver wire again. And then after that, you could sign him to your practice squad. He decides if he wants to sign with you. A player that is exposed to waivers has no choice of where they're going if a team claims him, but they do automatically go to the 53-man roster. There is no waiver system for the practice squad, though. So I hope that makes sense. It's all about the 53 for the waiver wire. All right, I'm waiting for some more good questions. While we're waiting, everybody, seriously, the best, this is like Mike was joking, this is kind of our Super Bowl the next 24 hours. I know that we cover 49ers strategy better than anybody. That's why more people watch this channel than any other 49ers channel. We go through the roster cuts. We go through roster strategy, obviously here. The San Francisco Standard is what you have to read. We've got the link in the description. Go and sign up. That's how you can best support me. You can support me through memberships on the channel. You can support me by hitting that like button. You can support me by hitting the alarm bell so you know when we're going to go live with the big show tomorrow. You can support with a comment, anything. All of the above is the best. Memberships for both the Standard and for the YouTube channel would be absolute peak 49ers content fandom, if you will. But we appreciate anything. We love how big this channel has grown. And we will say that this is when strategy and strategy analysis hits its absolute peak over the next 24 to 48 hours. And if you're going to watch anybody, you should watch me because you're going to get the best strategy analysis here. And I'm not afraid to say it because you obviously will get it here. I think that the track record speaks for itself. We have a lot of channels copying exactly what we're doing with each passing show, but we'll continue to do it better than anybody else. So make sure that you do hit that subscribe button. We appreciate everybody for being aboard. I'm going to stick around here and answer a few questions because I'm sure that we've got more good questions rolling in. Yeah, we got 1,200 watching, but only 310 likes. What's that about? I think we need a few more likes. Post your questions, though. Any good questions? I will try to get them up on the screen. I'll try. There's a lot coming in, but here we go. Super Bowl. $2 for my burrito. I appreciate it. Tommy asking 5-man front week 1. I think that you run a 5-man front in a situation where you really want to take away the opposing run game. I know the 49ers have run 5-man fronts this preseason. They did it. They've done it before when they've really needed to stop the bleeding against the run. I think their defensive line depth has improved over the course of the preseason. It really helped to get CJ West and Mykel Williams back today. So let's see if the 49ers run any five-man fronts once this season does begin against the team that seems to be very proficient in running the ball. I think Seattle, they got Gray Zabel, the rookie now. Seattle's going to want to run the football. And the 49ers are going to have to be ready for it in week 1. Heck yeah. Knight family is always listening. I appreciate you guys. Thank you. Is Saleh really going to blitz this much? Well, I think Saleh wants to put as much as possible on tape so the Seahawks and other teams don't know what's coming once the season starts. But I think he's going to blitz a lot more than he did in round 1 just because the 49ers didn't have currently don't have the defensive line that they did in round 1 under Robert Saleh. They had one of the great D lines ever in 2019. So you don't blitz a lot, obviously. You get pressure with 4. But now, I mean, they're working in a new D line. So I think that Saleh is going to have to be a little bit more creative on the back end. $10 for a burrito is insane. Well, welcome to San Francisco, man. This is why we need some donations so I can eat. Burritos now cost $16 in San Francisco. Like 10 covers like 60% of it. But I'm still having to find money to eat. Like this is an expensive city. It's an expensive area, but it happens to be where the 49ers are based. So anyway, all joking aside, I really appreciate everybody. I'm not joking though about the $16 burritos. Taqueria Cancun's prices have risen sharply. I mean, back in the day, my buddy Jack, shout out to Jack out down in San Mateo. Jack is awesome. He said that the burritos were like $3 or $4 in the Mission, and now there's 16. So we got 4x between price increases and inflation from the 1990s to now. I wish a burrito was only $10. That's how much I remember it being back in the day. It was like 8 or 9. I never remember $4, but now no, it's 15 or 16. Yeah, they should start putting gold in the burritos. Then the price would be worth it. I mean, it's still a delicious food. It's still the best food deal you're going to find in San Francisco, the Urban Food Log. All right, guys, on the note of burritos, we're ending the show. It's been fun. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you all. We'll talk to you soon.